Welcome, everyone, to the Obsessive Viewer podcast. Today we're talking about Halloween on television. It's pretty much any special episode of Halloween theme on any TV show, because usually they have, like, throughout their seasons, a special holiday episode. So this is Matt, at Obsessive Viewer, speaking. I'm joined today with Tiny and Mike, at Obsessive Tiny and at I Am Mike White, respectively. So, what do you guys think about Halloween on TV? What are some of your favorites, and what do you got?
I was thinking about stealing the thing the Simpsons do, where like my name, you would introduce me as Mike White as a ghost.
Oh, that is awesome!
You know what I mean?
If we would have thought of it, thought ahead, we could.
Yeah.
Yes.
Next year.
Yeah, we got it next year. As long as as long as we don't hate each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Should we start there, though, Matt? I know you were
Yeah.
hankering to talk about The Simpsons.
Yeah, let's start with the big one, I would say, because the Treehouse of Horror series of episodes for The Simpsons, every year, starting with season 2, I believe, they've done a Treehouse of Horror episode, which, in its best, was a staple of my Halloween tradition growing up. I would watch The Simpsons, and it would be like I forged an association in my brain with Halloween and Treehouse of Horror, because in the early days, in the golden age of The Simpsons, it was perfect. It was great.
Yeah.
But then when you get up to the later seasons, it's obviously not quite up to snuff. Yeah.
Well, the problem is it became less about scary and more just like there was one scary segment and then like the other two were all parody
yes.
things. Like they would pick a movie that wasn't even necessarily horror or scary by any means and just parody that.
And absolutely. It became just a movie parody segment instead of Treehouse of Horror, which I have a huge issue with. Like, one of the worst ones that I've seen is a send-up of Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
What?
Yeah, they had one where Homer and Marge play. It's basically Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Homer and Marge.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awful.
Was it even a good episode, despite the fact that it ruined that it wasn't, horror? Like, was it even funny? You don't remember?
I guess.
I'm going to be honest and say I haven't seen one since perhaps season 10.
Really?
Maybe as late as 12. No, I'll tell you, it was probably like 12 or 13 because I do remember watching the first few that aired in November.
Yes. Ugh.
From like season 12 to season 20, they went through this weird, stupid phase where I think because of baseball, Major League Baseball, and their deal with Fox, that they had to air the playoffs, that The Simpsons would always come on their Treehouse of Horror episode the first weekend of November, and it drove me insane. In fact, the season 16 series opener in 2004 aired on November 7th. Now do the math really quick. Could have done an episode on October 31st.
Oh man,
that is just terrible.
Isn't that nuts?
It's like
that
airing.
sucks.
It's like airing It's a Wonderful Life on January 5th.
That's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
Wow.
Wow.
Man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like one or two of the openings, they kind of call attention to it, like, oh, it's November now, but it's still Halloween at the Simpsons house, and it's like, shut up.
Yeah.
You're just, stop.
Maybe that's just indicative of that time in television. Television was more successful back then, and it was so rigid that it wasn't so easy to move things around or something like that. Because now it seems so easy. They'll just be like, well, the show's been doing good. Let's give them like 3 more episodes this season, or like,
That's true.
It's like Sons of Anarchy is ridiculous this season. I think they've had 4 episodes, and all 4 of them have been an hour and a half. It's weird.
Yeah,
like,
I think I read that every single episode this season's going to be an hour and a half, and I'm like, yep, done.
Yeah, maybe it's just indicative of that time that TV was a little more. There was more, more structure to it. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
That's a good
Perhaps.
point. But anyway, the Mr. and Mrs. Smith one wasn't the worst one of them. I would say probably off the top of my head, the worst one that I'd seen that's not horror related at all was the parody. Like, okay, you can argue Mr. and Mrs. Smith was decent because it was a popular movie, or at least it was a widely seen movie.
Mm-hmm.
This one,
you mean the choice makes sense because it was a popular movie?
Yeah, and it involved people dying. I would say
Gotcha.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
So those two things kind of worked. Okay, I can see where they would make that kind of connection, I guess. It's a loose connection, very loose, but it still works somewhat. But the worst one was maybe, I don't remember what season it was, but they actually did, and this is a movie I still haven't seen yet, and the only reason why I know about it is, and maybe this is just indicative of me being out of touch somewhere, but the only reason I know about it is I know that Tiny saw it. They did a parody of The Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
Whoa.
Huh?
Yeah.
That's weird, because that's like a seriously dramatic show. Or
Right?
Movie, I mean.
Yeah, it's like Homer is like paralyzed, and he uses a computer or whatever to communicate. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a dramatic episode. It's not.
Yeah, that's madness.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's not like there's a vacuum from which there's no horror parodies to horror movies to pull from, because I mean there's been a steady stream of horror movies that have been released yearly. I mean, and even going from the back catalog of classics, they can still do it. They can still do all of these things, but they don't. They just want to do movie parodies.
Sure.
I
don't know. I mean, I think I mentioned this in the sitcom episode forever ago. That's the South Park effect.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
South Parkification.
Right. But let's not get hung up on the.
Yeah, we kind of started out saying, let's talk about the obvious one. By the way, this sucks.
Good point.
Listeners, I hope that it's clear, especially if you've been listening for a while, if you heard the sitcoms episode. We really love The Simpsons. Loved The Simpsons. Or at least I do.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mean to speak for you guys, but it was good. Do you guys remember any specifically? Do you have any favorite Treehouse of Horror?
Tiny, do you have any?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of that many, but was there one where they, I think it was kind of a parody on, not a parody, but a reference to a show that was on the air where I think Homer was like going through several different dimensions and his family was different in each one. Is that a Treehouse of Horror episode, or is that?
Yeah, that's.
Is it like a butterfly effect kind of thing?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Where he
toaster.
goes back in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could remember what that one's called.
I
can't.
I don't remember, but that was a good one. Also, not really horror that much.
Time and Punishment.
There you go.
From season 6.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, that actually, I think, is one of, if not the favorite Treehouse of Horror for me.
Yeah.
It has The Shinning.
Oh, yes.
Right? Which has one of my all-time favorite Simpsons lines. I've been working on it, Marge. Let me know what you think. No beer and no TV make Homer something.
Go crazy?
Go crazy? Don't mind if I do. Give me the bat, Marge. Give me the bat. Give me the bat, boo.
Nice.
Oh, yes.
It's got Time and Punishment, and it also has Nightmare Cafeteria.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where Bart and Lisa find out that the lunch lady has been killing the kids for the
and feeding them
sandwiches. Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's hands down the best Treehouse of Horror, I think.
Awesome.
Just that collection of
It certainly sounds
shorts.
good. Those three together.
Huh.
Yeah, that's the one.
I also really.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is that what you were thinking of?
It was, yeah, because at the end of it, Homer finally, he thinks he's back, and he kind of settles for one where his family, like they're sitting at the dinner table, I think, and then they all like they're about to eat, and then like all of his family members like shoot these things out of their mouths to eat, and he's like, close enough or whatever.
Yeah.
I love
like lizard tongues. Kind
Yeah,
of
there
thing.
you go.
Yeah.
I love the one where he comes back and he's like they're like rich and they're all dressed to the nines and everything, and they're sitting down to breakfast and everything's perfect, and like they're like, are we gonna take the rolls to Aunt Patty and Aunt Selma's funeral? and then Homer's like, Marge, would you please pass me a donut? And then she's like, what's a donut? And he freaks out and he flips out and he goes back to the basement and does it. And then it shows them sitting at the table, and then they look outside and there's just donuts falling from the sky, and Marge is like, oh, it's raining again.
That's hilarious.
I love it.
It's good. So indicative of the time. I mean, that's just such great Simpsons classic stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you, there's one of my favorites, the other one, I guess, in comparison to The Shining and Time of Punishment and Nightmare Cafeteria, is the very first aired on October 25th, 1990, which has Bad Dream House, which is Take It or Leave It, but has Hungry Are the Damned, which I actually show in school because it has to do with dramatic irony.
Which one's that? I can't.
Hungry Are the Damned is where Kang and Kodos abduct the Simpsons.
Yes.
Right? And they're gonna eat them, and Lisa finds the book, how to cook 40 humans.
That's right.
Or how to cook humans, I guess.
Yeah.
And then also, because of education, it's the Raven episode.
Oh yeah,
and
that was like on the first one, right?
It is the very first one, yeah. And the frame story is Bart and Lisa in their treehouse, just kind of sharing stories. And Lisa tells the Raven. And one of the things I remember so much from like elementary school and junior high was anytime somebody would mention anything about Edgar Allan Poe or anything about the Raven or like the Baltimore Ravens, it was always, quote the Raven, eat my shorts.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I also love there's Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores. When
the billboard things or the
donut guy.
Yeah.
Also has Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace.
Oh, that was actually one of my favorites.
Yeah. And Homer Cubed.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking about when Tiny mentioned going to different dimensions, because that's the one where he kind of goes into like this 3D.
Yeah, I remember that one now.
Landscape. That was very cool. I remember seeing that for the first time when it aired and thinking like, oh, that's so cool. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. It was a big deal. I remember them doing commercials for that.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace, though, that I loved that. That was because...
Is that the one where the Scottish guy, the groundskeeper guy?
Groundskeeper Willie.
He comes back from the dead. He's kind of like a Freddy Krueger type thing.
Yeah.
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 Oh, I love that one.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it because I'm not a huge fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise because I feel like it's a little too cheesy for me.
It's incredibly cheesy.
Oh yeah. And the second one is just it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Ever seen.
Ever.
Wow.
I mean, it's this really...
I second that fully.
Yeah. It's just weird. It's this really weird movie. But anyway, Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace, I just love it because as much of a disconnect I feel with the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, I still recognize it as having probably one of the best concepts for a horror movie franchise. Because I mean, I love sleeping and I love dreaming, and I love the idea of people like in their dreams like that. I just think it's a really inventive way to approach a slasher flick. So I just love their send up of it on The Simpsons. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
nice,
classic. Did you guys see the Guillermo del Toro intro?
I didn't.
I heard
that was on the latest
really
Treehouse of Horror.
Yeah, I did not watch the episode last night. Once again, I was busy sulking about the Chicago Bears. But I did watched the intro online, and it is really awesome.
Really?
It's self-referential in terms of Guillermo's work.
Mm-hmm.
It's also self-referential to The Simpsons. I mean, it talks about Simpsons past. There's like even the little clip of Maggie just walking around the side. She's got like the alien tentacles when you find out. Remember
awesome.
the Treehouse of Horror when you find out that she's actually an alien or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's good. I don't know about the episode. I can't speak for the episode, but definitely seek out the couch gag if you can find it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll check that out.
I've heard it has like 20 different references in it or something like that.
It is.
That's
It's like 6 minutes long.
Oh, way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool.
It's 6 minutes long, but it follows the progression of a normal couch gag, a normal opening.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Nice.
Yeah.
Neat.
So
How does it compare to Banksy's?
I barely remember Banksy's. I guess that's pretty telling.
Right.
I probably just like the Guillermo one more because I like Guillermo more, and I like the Treehouse of Horror episodes more.
Mm-hmm. That'd be cool if there was a.
Are you gonna say Chris Nolan?
No. I was gonna say it would be cool if, like, at the end of the couch gag, there's a big thing that says like, "Sorry for Pacific Rim."
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah.
So you love that movie, huh?
I don't think they're sorry. I don't think they're sorry for that.
I don't think so either. Maybe it just wasn't. I don't know. I feel like I just imagine like 2 or 3 people are listening to this right now, and they're like, "Oh man, he didn't like. Oh man, screw that guy."
Yeah.
Sorry,
Wait,
review us on iTunes. Guys.
Pacific Rim, as in came out this summer. The thrilling actioner starring Charlie Hunnam. That's the one. It sucked.
It sucked. Listen to it on the Obsessive Viewer podcast. Our thoughts on it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is like 20 minutes on The Simpsons. Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on. Cool. Let's see. Mike, did you have any other ones that you wanted to talk about?
I do, and I would like to stick in the 90s if you guys don't mind.
Cool.
By all means.
The heyday of the sitcom.
Yes.
I'll say.
Oh, yeah.
If this is the golden age of television, the sitcom had its heyday 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. Anyway. I actually watched a couple episodes today. I kind of sought them out just to spur up some memories, and I'll talk about 3 shows in particular. The first is Roseanne. Do you guys remember the Roseanne Halloween episodes?
I never watched Roseanne.
Me either.
Tiny? No?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, it reminded me a lot of my family growing up, even more so because they were from Illinois, northern Illinois, which I was as well. Mm-hmm. So it was easy for me to connect. But I highly recommend you guys seek out their Halloween episodes because they are terrifying.
Really?
Seriously scary. Like, I remembered staying up at night after just watching the cold open to the episode's called Trick Me Up, Trick Me Down. And it aired sometime, I think, on Halloween or October 29th of 1991. And the cold open starts with the neighbor lady, like, walking up to the Connors' house and hearing screams, like Dan and Roseanne are screaming inside. And so she kind of, like, makes her way in and then finds Dan gutted, laying on the kitchen counter. I'm not kidding. You know, he's wearing a prosthetic, like comedically a prosthetic. If I wasn't 7 years old, I would have known.
Okay.
And then Roseanne comes in with a bloody shirt and a knife, saying, you know, I keep telling myself it's just like a fish. It's just like a fish. I tried to remind myself this last year. And she's like, last time? And Roseanne is like, yeah, you know, DJ's dad also has, you know, this isn't my first husband, so... and then the neighbor's like, I gotta go. And she's like, you can't leave. You're a talker.
Wow.
It is terrifying. It's terrifying.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is really good. It's called Trick Me Up, Trick Me Down, and it is on this really cool website that has videos. It's called YouTube, youtube.com. You can check it out.
I thought you were being serious for a second. Awesome.
But really, if you search on YouTube, Roseanne Halloween episodes, they all pop up. And Trick Me Up, Trick Me Down was my personal favorite.
Nice.
I'll sum it up quickly because you guys haven't seen it. And I'm kind of killing conversation here. No. Story focuses on the Connors, and it's like their struggle to have their kids be a part of the holiday. It's almost kind of like Christmas, but on Halloween. Mm-hmm. It's actually like one of my favorite kinds of episodes. I call it a microcosm episode. Okay. Where you see, what the whole show is like in this one episode. Luckily for me, and for this conversation, or maybe not this conversation, it's a Halloween episode. And so I just love it. I mean, it's one of my favorites. I'm bummed you guys haven't seen it, but please do check it out. Huh. I'll test the waters with this one. Did you guys watch the Cheers Halloween episodes?
No.
Didn't watch those either. Okay.
Yeah, I was a Wings guy, not Cheers.
You were a what?
I was a Wings kid growing up, not Cheers.
Gotcha. So I'll skip that. I know you guys have seen the Home Improvement episodes.
I was actually going to mention those. I don't remember them specifically, but I remember liking them.
Yeah, when we talked about it in a past episode, I remember them, but I don't remember specifics. Was there one with a haunted house that they made?
Yes.
Okay.
There was one where Zachary Ty Bryan, which one's the oldest?
That's
Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brad has a Halloween party at the house, and Tim puts together it's called The Haunting of the Taylor House, and Tim puts together a haunted house for that.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Let me read this one. It's called A Night to Dismember.
Okay.
Which is awesome.
Nice.
It's the last one. It's the last Halloween episode, I think. No, it's the second to last. It's Halloween at the Taylor's house. Jill is worried that Mark will spend the night alone with Ronnie. She asks Brad and Randy to take him to a party they're going to, but they refuse. Mark tells his parents that he and Ronnie are in a film class and that they're going to make a horror film. You guys remember this one?
No.
I don't know.
He asks the family to be in it, and they accept. When they start, Jill and Tim worry that it won't be good because it isn't scary yet. When they find his video, they decide to watch it to see how it's going. They find out that it's about a boy, Clark, rhymes with Mark, who's been ignored by his family, Jim, Lil, Chad, and Andy. He sees a mad scientist, Dr. Wilsonstein, to get a potion that will turn them into freaks. He then decides to kill them. This makes Jill worry because she thinks Mark really does feel ignored and wants to kill them. When they start the next scene, he's about to chop his father's head off, and Mark holds up a real knife. Jill has had enough and then decides they need to talk.
Wow.
That's the episode.
Wow, that sounds funny.
That's awesome. I vaguely remember that. And I remember Mark being wasn't he kind of the weird one? Like he kind of went through like kind of a goth phase. Not that, I mean.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Painting his fingernails black.
Right.
Like a freak. I did that in high school. Nice. What about this one? It's a battle of Halloween pranks. First, Tim scares Al, then Brad and Randy scare Jill, then a strange man shows up at the door asking to see the basement. Jill, Tim, and Wilson tell Brad and Randy that years ago, a man named Clifford Warren was accused of killing his brother, but because of his mental problems, he was put in an insane hospital. Little do the boys know that it's a Halloween prank. Unfortunately, Al blows the secret, and they invite to help them pull a prank of their own, but Al blows that one too. Tim, Jill, and Mark end up scaring Brad and Randy in the attic, and Al and Wilson pull a prank of their own on the Taylors. Do you guys remember that with Clifford?
I don't think so, Mike.
That was good, Tiny.
I remember the pranks, but I don't remember much of anything else.
Yeah, I don't.
Sorry. I know this is kind of killing the conversation, but
I'm trying here, you guys.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess for some reason I just don't. I just didn't make a specific note about Halloween episodes for some reason.
Yeah,
with a few exceptions.
Oh, they were such a big deal to me as a kid.
Huh.
I have one. Or should we move on, or do you want to keep?
Yes, we can move on.
We're ruining Mike's night right now.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Here's one that's equally not going to get a lot of traction in the conversation, but I just wanted to point it out that Dawson's Creek, I'm so sorry.
No.
I've only seen like seasons 2 and 3 have Halloween theme episodes, but or maybe season 1. I don't know, because the writer of the first 2 seasons, at least, of Dawson's Creek, the showrunner was Kevin Williamson, who made Scream. So in the first season, they have a Friday the 13th themed episode where like Dawson plays pranks on all of his friends, and it's like it goes through the thing where it's like Jen is getting like these really, really obscene pranks, like people calling, asking, telling her that he's going to kill her and all that stuff, and little threatening notes. And then it turns out that it's just her new boyfriend trying to win her affection by being like Dawson. But anyway, the episode was okay, I guess. But there's a segment where Dawson and Joey are at a store, at like a convenience store or something, and then this guy goes up to Joey and he's like, "Hi, how's it going?" And he's like being really creepy and all that, and then it turns out that he's like a serial killer, and then like they catch him, like
like really, he's a serial killer?
Yeah, like throughout the episode, I neglected to mention this, but throughout the episode, there's this thing where like the news, they're talking about like, oh, there's a serial killer on the loose in Cape Side. This guy approaches Joey and is like, hey, do you think I can get a ride or something like that? And then Dawson's all like, no, you need to get out of here, buddy. And then they go back, and then later on at the end of the episode, they're watching the news and they're like, we caught the serial killer. Like the news says that they caught him. And it shows a picture of the guy. So it's kind of an interesting kind of, I mean, it's a sappy teen soap opera, but there's kind of this little bit of actual kind of genuine, almost horror in it.
Sounds like it had a little bit of a Scream feel to it.
Exactly.
Cool.
Did you just call Katie Holmes a whore?
What?
Wait, what?
You said there's a little bit of a whore in it.
What?
Sorry. I don't...
Oh, wow.
I am such a one-trick pony, like, with my misheard.
No, that's great. I'm dumbfounded. I don't know. I like the joke a lot, but I don't know how to respond to it because I can't go any higher than that.
Oh my god.
Oh man, our listeners are going to be like, he's really not that funny. What?
Why do they like him? I don't get
Why
it.
do they laugh for 30 seconds?
Oh my gosh. I did not expect Dawson's Creek to come up tonight, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
well,
me neither.
You were expecting to talk to me tonight, though, so
yeah, that's true.
You know it's got to come up at some point. And then season 3, like this is the point where I never go past this episode when I try to watch it. The 2 times I've tried to watch it, there's an episode where it's like the Blair Witch Project. They're like, oh, there's these wooded areas on this island off of Cape Side, and we're gonna go make a documentary about the. They're not even creative with it. I think they just call them like the Cape Side Witch.
Oh, God.
But yeah, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of melodramatic and not that memorable.
Like most of Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, it was in the season after Kevin Williamson left, and so it went from being annoying teenagers with pretentious dialogue that's kind of interesting to annoying teenagers with teenage dialogue that isn't interesting. So yeah. But on the other side of the coin, there's another show I wanted to bring up, and I completely spaced what it was.
Uh-oh. True Blood?
No. No.
I almost got Matt to drop an F-bomb. That's how much I hate True Blood.
Actually, I would like to bring this up. American Horror Story.
Ah.
Horror
I was
going
to ask about that.
What?
That was a weird inflection. I was going to ask about that as well.
American Horror Story. Tiny, did you watch any of it? I think I made you watch the pilot.
Yeah, that's all I've watched.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better.
Every time I see the promos, I'm like, that looks cool, but I can't bring myself to watch it for some reason.
I'll say this with this caveat that... Caveat?
Caveat.
I'll say it with this caveat that I have only seen the first season, and that was enough for me because I was on the fence about it. I waited a year to watch it until last October because the previews were really off-putting for me. I actually wrote about this on the blog somewhere probably. That the promos were off-putting because like they had just quick cuts. You couldn't tell anything that was going on in it, which is fine. It established a creepy tone, but there was no real substance to it for me. And then they had like these flashes on the screen in one promo where it was literally they had pulled comments from Twitter from, as far as I could see, were just random people from Twitter tweeting about it. And then they would have that, and then they would have from what is his name? The guy that did the guy that Ryan Murphy. Yeah. From Ryan Murphy, the creator of Glee, comes an original horror show, and I'm like, that's what I want in my horror is Glee.
Yeah.
It seems so counterintuitive to it. And then finally in the promos,
that's a weird promo because to be fair, he also created Nip Tuck, which was really good for 3 seasons.
Right. Okay.
Which is more than you can say for Glee.
And I think Nip Tuck was on FX, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Yeah, and they may have billed it as the creator of Glee and Nip Tuck, but they definitely mentioned Glee, which I'm like, that's just going to turn away your audience.
Yeah, that's weird.
The demographic you're going for. But finally, the other thing is that they build it as an original Halloween or an original horror production or whatever, and the previews had bits of score from notable horror movies. Like they had the Halloween theme playing in it, and I'm like, that doesn't inspire confidence in its originality.
Yeah, and
that was indicative of the entire first season for me. When I watched the entire first season, and throughout it, they pay homage to different horror icons and stuff by doing like pieces of their music in it. Like in the second or third episode, whatever episode's called Home Invasion, they play bits of the Psycho score, which is, in my mind, is just such a big no-no to me. Like a big problem, because it felt less like an homage and more like they were trying to piggyback off of the tone that score earned in its movie.
I see.
Which it just bothered me so much. And then there's other problems with it that I won't go into, but I just didn't get the appeal of it. It seemed like it was more, I think, Tiny, when I made you watch the pilot, I think you pointed out that it seemed like they were trying to be as weird as possible without having any real connection or whatever. Like they were going, it seemed like they were trying to be weird just for weirdness' sake.
Yeah, that's what I remember thinking.
Yes.
Something along those lines. Yeah.
And it's like that the entire show.
I can agree with that now. Yeah.
How much have you watched, Mike?
Maybe a year and a half ago, we watched the first 4 episodes, maybe 5 episodes.
What'd you think of it?
I liked the atmosphere. I kept waiting for it to get better, and I imagine it does get better. To be honest with you, I guess I'm holding out hope. But I just got too busy to get into it. Especially like we started it around October, and I didn't want to be watching it in January,
right?
Just because the mood didn't feel right. I don't know. I'm very particular about when to watch scary things.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of just stopped.
Yeah,
I see.
Huh.
So.
Yeah. So it wasn't, and it pains me to throw it away so easily, because I want like a good horror show that isn't inconsistent like The Walking Dead, and isn't. There's no other alternative really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I want something good like that, but it just didn't deliver for me. And the second season, they set it at an asylum, and I'm like, that's prime real estate for good horror for me. And I'm so put off by the first season that I don't even want to bother watching it.
Did you watch the entire thing?
The entire first season? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and it got a little better. There was some cool. there were a couple interesting plots that kind of came out kind of good. The best part of it was, I don't know if spoilers.
No,
I won't spoil it.
Time's up. No, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Time's up.
Okay, yeah. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched the first season of American Horror Story, but don't worry because I'm doing you a favor. Two things. One, the good part of it was that there was the girl that played the daughter of Dylan McDermott and Mrs. Coach from Friday Night Lights, Connie Britton. The daughter is this kind of angsty teenager, and the father is this psychiatrist who is seeing his patients in the home. And one of his patients is this like psychopathic teenager who the girl like falls in love with because she's a teenager and, you know, she's turned on by psychopaths apparently.
Of course.
Yeah. So it turns out that he's a ghost. We find this out early in the season. And so, and I'll get to that in a bit because that had a huge issue with me. That hits such a annoying nerve with me. But so then anyway, she gets depressed about something, and then tries to kill herself. But he saves her because she took a bunch of pills and sat in a bathtub. I don't know why. I don't think she slit her wrist or anything. Maybe she did. Anyway, so he saves her and everything, and she's okay. And then like 3-4 episodes later, Dylan McDermott's walking through the house and he notices all these fruit flies all over the place. And immediately I'm like, oh, I see where they're going with this. So then eventually 3 or 4 episodes after she tried to kill herself, it's revealed that she actually died. And throughout those 3 or 4 episodes, she's actually a ghost in the house. Which I thought was kind of cool, even though I called it the second I saw the fruit flies flying around because I paid a little bit too much attention to them. Like, oh, what's this? Oh, we're going to be clever.
Uh-huh.
But I thought that was okay. That was the shining example of a season that was just trash. And then the other thing was that regarding the psychopath kid, they showed a flashback of his death, which he was a kid who basically at the time I had just finished reading the book Columbine by Dave something. It's a really good book, by the way. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal account of the Columbine tragedy by Dave Cullen is his name. But anyway, so I just finished reading that, and so the kid's story is that he, as a teenager, he shot up a school. He shot up his school. So they show a flashback of the school. They show a library, and they show a teacher in the library. So it establishes that it's during the school day, and all these kids are in the library. And you hear gunshots and everything, and then one kid comes in and locks the door, and then they're all like, oh my god, we need to hide and all that. And then they hide under the table. Psychopath walks in. Stupid jock kid gets up, and it's like he's about to attack the kid, but then he stops and he's like, hey, you should calm down. This is no, don't do this. It's like, it's so counterintuitive to what I think a teenager would do in that situation. Like, he played it off like a hothead who was going to attack him and try to subdue the psychopath, but then he stops and he tries to reason with him, and it's like, he has a gun. So, of course, he shoots him up and everything. And then we go to a cut of later in the day, the psychopath is in his bedroom, and the cops are onto him and swarm his bedroom. And then he basically causes the cops to shoot him, so it's suicide by cop. But all I could think about was, how in the world did the kid get from the school that he just shot up to home without being detected?
That's the magic of television, isn't it?
I hated it. I hated it so much because it's so, like, that the second that there were shots fired in that school, it went on lockdown and the police swarmed the place. There's literally no way that he could have gotten through. And if they would have shown somehow that he did, I would have been like, okay, I'm on board. But there's that plot inconsistency that just eats at me, and it bugs me so much. And also there's throughout his theme music is the whistling, the music that Daryl Hannah whistles in the hospital as she's going toward the bride in Kill Bill. Yeah.
Okay.
And they play that throughout, and I'm like, you're borrowing from other better work.
Mm-hmm.
again.
It seems like a very derivative show.
It really
absolutely.
is. So
Absolutely.
I quit it, and I'll yield the floor to you guys because I've talked way too much about this. So, anything else, guys? Tiny?
Incidentally, the episodes that come to mind for me are from comedies, which is kind of weird.
Nice.
But not Cheers.
Cheers, not The Simpsons, not anything Mike said.
Home Improvement.
Yeah. I talked about how much I like Community, and the second season has a really great Halloween episode. Mm-hmm. It is a zombie episode where they're having a Halloween party in the library, and the dean gets some cheap, like MRE type food for the party, and it turns out to be poisoned, and it turns everyone into zombies, and it just goes from there. It's so funny.
That's so great.
Yeah, and I love. One thing I always remember from Halloween episodes are just what people dress up as, because on a TV show they can go pretty far with it because they have a wardrobe department, so it's easy for them to come up with outfits. And so Troy and Abed as the alien, and then the big mechanical machine thing from Aliens, the James Cameron one, that was just so funny. I love that so much.
Hey, get away from those hotties. I love it.
And then just something as simple as Jeff dressing up as David Beckham because he's like a classy guy who wears suits.
Yeah.
It's memorable to me. I love that episode. I think it's a really great example of like a zombie attack. It has like a lot of staples of zombie movies. I love it.
I love when Troy is going through the hallway and he's punching everyone. He says like his catchphrase or whatever, or like a one-liner, but it's always the same thing. It's like I can't remember any of them, but it's like I think Annie is dressed as Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah.
He's like, what big teeth you have in your face, and then he punches. And he says it throughout the rest of them. I might actually put a clip of that in here, but.
Hello, zombie Annie. What big fist you have in your face! Eat this up, Scotty! In your face! Zombie Shirley, I don't know what you are, but in your face!
It's funny you mentioned the Community zombie episode because last week on the Cornetto trilogy episode of this podcast, I mentioned that I made a zombie playlist of zombie music, and I had Queen on there for Shaun of the Dead. Yeah. But what I also had on there was a bunch of ABBA music that was used throughout the episode of Community.
That's one of the best things about that episode.
Very smart.
Absolutely, I love
Very
it.
Smart.
And just I love throughout that episode they refer to the zombies as zombies, which is kind of a it's a staple of zombie movies that they don't use that word.
Right.
It poked fun at in the movie Shaun of the Dead. But my favorite one is when Troy just goes, "Holy crap, Leonard's a zombie." That's just my favorite one. It's so funny. I don't know why.
So great.
So that's one of my favorites. And then from How I Met Your Mother, I don't remember the season, but it's the episode with the slutty pumpkin.
Oh yes, which episode? Because there's two of them.
I don't remember.
Not the reveal. Not the Katie.
Not the Katie
that would
Holmes
be
one.
season 1.
We've had enough Katie Holmes so far tonight.
Yeah.
Just
sorry, Katie.
But yeah, I love that episode, especially Barney, how he changes costumes and tries to hit on the same girl.
Yes,
just it's so fun. And then all of the this may be from other Halloween episodes as well, but all the different couple costumes with Lily and Marshall.
That's right. Yeah, the parrot thing, parrot and the pirate, and the gay pirate.
And then Marshall dresses up as Cher, and Lily dresses up as Sunny. Pretty funny.
I think we said more things that we hate than the things that we love. So hopefully, you guys, listeners, don't mind that too much.
Right.
But do seek out Roseanne because it's fantastic.
Nice.
In the classic Treehouse of Horror episodes, you can't go wrong with those early years.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome.
And also watch Dawson's Creek.
No,
No,
don't watch Dawson's
nobody?
Creek.
No.
Not so much.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. And we're back, everybody. This is the Obsessive Viewer Potpourri section for episode 22, the Halloween on TV, and whatever else I decide to title this. So we're doing something a little different this week in that we were a little pressed for time with our main topic, and Mike is kind of on his honeymoon right now. So we got what we could with him, and then me and Tiny came back, and we're going to do potpourri with just the two of us. Yep. So for our longtime listeners, it's like a callback to the early days where we didn't know what we were doing.
It's a sad moment. It's just the two of us again.
It is.
Kinda
it is.
Nice,
it feels like
kind of nice.
Yeah, it is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Kind of, but it's kind of
So your way of saying you hate me and Mike is better.
Well,
my words, not yours.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want on my behalf, but yeah, that's pretty accurate.
You actually got to go to Mike's wedding, didn't you?
Yeah, I had like a heck of a time getting to the wedding, but when I actually got to the wedding, it went off well.
Nice.
But the wedding itself was just it was a blast. It was really cool because I mean, like I've known Mike for several years. And in those several years, knowing Mike and Pat, I've met like their inner circle, and they're all like super cool people.
Nice.
So it's really cool. Like you can attest to that when we went to go see Star Wars for Mike's bachelor party.
Yeah, they were all really nice guys.
Right?
Yeah.
But
of a sausage
one
fest, but...
kind of.
Who'd have thought a bachelor party would be a sausage fest? You know.
I know, right? But I don't know. We had Princess Leia in the gold bikini. She was on a screen, but she was there.
Good enough.
There was one thing that kind of irked me about the wedding was that it was a beautiful ceremony. It was in Brown County, Indiana, which in the fall is just it's like a very, very quaint wooded area, and all the leaves were changing. It was just a beautiful setting. And they wrote their own vows, Mike and Amanda did, which was really cool. But in all of the vow speaking and everything, not one of them referenced the Obsessive Viewer.
Weak.
Yeah. So
Prime opportunity for product placement, man.
exactly. We should have sponsored the wedding.
We should have.
Yes. The Obsessive Viewer presents the Frederick White wedding.
What if this podcast were a Time podcast?
Yes. But oh well.
Yeah.
I had fun despite the lack of promotion.
Was it an open bar?
Yeah. Well, it was an open bar for beer and wine, which I had. I had some beer and it was fun.
Nice.
Yeah, it was awesome because I got to at the reception. I got to sit next to Pat, who we had on last week for the zombie episode. Mm-hmm. So we were just talking back and forth about Gravity, which I actually saw Gravity, but we'll get into that in a later episode. But no, it was fun. I got to hang out with him in person, which is a rarity.
Nice.
So it was fun. So if anyone listening has an opportunity to go to one of Mike White's weddings, go to it.
Nice.
So now he's on his honeymoon, and we're here, cold and alone. He's left us.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
Not that it wasn't sad before.
Right. So anyway, let's get to some potpourri, if you don't mind. Cool. How about you start, Tiny?
Sure.
Cool.
We are in the thick of Shocktober right now. I was like October. What's wrong with me?
Nice save. I know. What is wrong with you?
Gosh.
Now you wonder why Mike's my favorite.
Awesome. So I've been Shocktobering pretty hardcore for the most part.
Nice. And that's pretty irregular for you because you're not usually that into not necessarily into horror genre, but you're not really that into like Shocktober or anything.
True, very true.
Yeah. So I'm proud.
This is my most successful Shocktober ever, and it's only halfway over. So
nice.
it's going well.
Yeah, and you threatened my throne.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to make it, but
Good.
we'll see. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, but for our listeners, my throne is piled on top of 57 viewings.
Gosh.
Yeah, I know, right? That year I was very single, just so you guys know. So so you were challenging that, and so I need to step up my game, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. So what have you watched lately?
The movie I wanted to talk about was a movie I own that happens to fit into Shocktober. It is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Nice.
I think I saw this movie it has a bit of a nostalgia feel to it for me, because I think the first time I saw it I was maybe 10 or 11 or something like that, and it was really late at night on like Sci-Fi, and they were showing like an unedited version of it, so like they left in all the cursing and the horrible blood and gore and all that stuff. And I was just sitting there as like a 10 or 11-year-old with my jaw on the floor the whole time, like, this is so disgustingly awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm a big fan of winter and snow, so I just love the setting so much.
Nice. What did you... Keep it spoiler-free, because I haven't seen this version. I mean, I saw John Carpenter's version, but what did you think of the remake with Mary Elizabeth Winstead -Hurt? That's not her real last name. I just like her a lot.
It's not her last name yet.
Not yet.
I didn't care for it at all. It was very boring. They got away from the mistrust between the characters was one of my favorite parts of John Carpenter's version.
Right.
You know, how they don't know who's one of the things and who isn't.
Yeah.
And it was played so well in John Carpenter's version, and it was just, I would say, completely absent from the remake. I don't even remember it that much. It was just boring.
Really?
Yeah, and also one of the best parts of John Carpenter's version is that it's the effects that were used, the special effects to make all of the gore and the ridiculously disturbing monsters that they shifted into. It was groundbreaking for the time, and it holds up incredibly well.
Nice.
I don't know if anyone will ever match that again, in my opinion. I just thought it was so... I mean, a dude's head falls off, and then it sprouts spider legs and walks across the floor. I mean, that is freaking cool, you know?
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of it. There's so much to like about the movie. It has a very cool, ambiguous ending that I won't spoil.
Right.
It's just such a great movie. Kurt Russell can be so much fun. Sometimes he's terrible, but
yeah.
But you know, when he's good, he's fun. He's a fun actor to watch. So yeah, there's just a lot to like about the movie.
Awesome.
I love it. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I've heard, Tiny, we were talking about this before we started recording, but I've heard about this, but I don't know how, I can't attest to it, but I've heard that the Blu-ray is actually like kind of really good.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, so I'm actually thinking about picking it up at some point.
Nice.
Yeah, but I've heard really good things about it. And I mean, I like the movie the 2 or 3 times that I've seen it, but I just haven't seen it for a few years, so I'll have to check that out. Add that to the Shocktober. But I have plans for Shocktober, for the rest of Shocktober. I'm feeling kind of the crunch that it's already... We're going to post this tomorrow, so it's the 18th of Shocktober, and I feel like there's only so many days left.
Right.
So hopefully I can get everything I want in, because I'm planning some stuff.
Yeah, you got to choose wisely.
Yes.
Yeah.
As for me, do you mind if we move on to me?
No, go ahead. I'm all set.
Okay, cool. As for me, I watched Saw and Saw 2, which I know you went through pretty much the whole franchise, but usually whenever I have Shocktober stuff to watch, it's always when I get to the Saw franchise, I just watch 1 and 2 and maybe 3, but then after that I've never watched the other ones. But something I wanted to point out about Saw 2 that I really like, that I wish that they would do this more with the horror genre, is that Saw 2 was, it's my understanding that it was originally, it was an original script by Darren Bozeman's. I can't remember his name. But it was an original script by him, and then they reworked it with Lee Wanell and whoever else wrote Saw. And they reworked it to incorporate the Saw franchise. So whenever I see it, I have that in the back of my mind, and I think this feels like fresh, and it feels kind of like it feels good to watch it, because you see all these horror remakes or these horror sequels, and you see these movie sequels in general that just they take the formula of the first one, and then they do the same thing to try to generate the same response, which is always just a disaster.
Right.
But what Saw 2 does is it does something completely different, and it becomes a unique thing in itself, and I really appreciate that.
I agree.
Nice.
And I recommend actually watch through the fourth one and treat the fourth one as the end of the franchise, because I wrote about this a little bit in my Shocktober musings.
Right, which you can find on obsessiveviewer.com on the Shocktober tab at the top.
Yay!
Yeah.
Plug. But but yeah, I wrote about it a little bit. The fourth one actually wraps everything up really, really well. Like, there are no loose ends for anything.
Nice.
And it shows how the work will continue and stuff like that. It's actually pretty well done. It's not a great movie. I think the first one is. I love the first one so much. But
me too.
I think all of the sequels, all 6 of them, they didn't live up to that first one at all.
Right.
But those first 4, I'm thinking about. I only own the first one. I'm thinking about getting 2, 3, and 4. Just treating that as the Saw franchise, and just trying to push 5, 6, and 7 from my mind. So
right. Okay. Yeah, the fourth one was the first one written by the guys that wrote The Collector and The Collection, which I was kind of a fan of. Which that's also another situation where they originally wrote that as a prequel to Saw, but that got declined or whatever by Lionsgate or whoever is in charge of the Saw property, which is probably good for it. But I like when I was writing my review of it on obsessiveviewer.com, I couldn't help but think that it would have been cool for it to be a Saw franchise and then have like a later Saw movie, or have it lead into like a later Saw movie that has the Collector, which is he's the serial killer in the Collector movies, the Collector and the Collection, have him be one of the victims of Jigsaw, and have that be kind of how it worked into the franchise. But
that'd be really cool.
It would have been, but I mean, oh well.
Yeah, too late now.
Yeah, but kind of got away from what we were talking about a little bit. Oh yeah, I'll check out Saw 4, because one of the things that I liked about the Collector and the Collection were that the storytelling was good. It was like surprisingly good for a horror movie that could have just easily been torture porn stuff, but it actually had a pretty good story with pretty good characters. It
had depth.
Yeah, it had a surprising amount of depth for a horror movie. I mean, I'm not gonna throw the word Oscar around anywhere near the Collector or the Collection, but I will say that it was surprisingly good storytelling for a horror movie that didn't necessarily need it, but it's a very welcome addition. And then I had a couple other things I wanted to talk about real quick. First of all, I'll save that for later. A trailer was released today for Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones. Which this is the like Latin American spin-off movie that was teased at the end of the credits to Paranormal Activity 4.
God.
I know. Just that whole string of words just oh man. I hate to say this. I hate so much to say this after being so disappointed with Paranormal Activity 4, but I'm intrigued.
Really?
Yeah, it looks interesting. It basically follows this guy who is experiencing these weird things in his sleep. Who'd have thought that? But it's basically like him becoming possessed. But then, like at the beginning, he kind of feels like there's like a thing in the trailer that makes you think that he like thinks he's discovering superpowers, which is kind of clever. But I mean, I don't know. It looks like it could be interesting. It could be an interesting way to tie some things up. But then again, it's the 5th movie in a franchise that hasn't matched the quality of the first movie, so I'm not exactly going to. It's not going to be a midnight screening for me, especially if they're coming out in January. But that's neither here nor there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else you want to bring up, Tiny?
I don't really have any extra stuff to talk about. Not that I can think of.
Okay. I wanted to leave us off with this. Mike, as I said, is on his honeymoon in Arkansas. And he left this, he posted this in our pod chat thing that we have with the 3 of us on Facebook. He posted a statement that he wanted us to share on this potpourri section on his behalf. So if you guys will indulge me, I would like to read it. Tiny, is that okay?
No.
Oh, okay.
He's gone.
All right, well, screw you, Mike.
Just kidding.
When either me or Tiny get married, we're going to stay on for the podcast. Just saying. Way to keep your priorities in check. That's so stupid. We love you, Mike. So here we go. Even my honeymoon can't stop Shocktober. I watched The Ring for the first time since high school. It's better and even maybe scarier than the first time I saw it. The first scene is undoubtedly lifted from Scream, but the rest of the movie is as original and as imaginative as horror gets. It's well acted, and the tension rarely wavers. I particularly enjoyed the scene in the second act by the lighthouse. The blue-gray tones match the character moods and creep factor of Brian Cox's Richard Morgan was spot on. The climax this time around was more effective. I might have been trying to impress my friends in high school by acting macho about it, but as the waterlogged, ghostly Morgan child walks toward the screen and Noah, I couldn't help but flinch. This is one of the better Shocktober viewings this year. Highly recommend. Nice. I did a horrible job of reading that, but
yeah,
the
all you
point
had to do
got
was read.
I know. Well, in my defense, the font was really low, and I'm leaning back in my chair, so I couldn't really see. I should have prepared that better, but
Excuses.
I know. So anyway, so what do you think of that, Tiny?
Awesome. I haven't seen The Ring in a long time either. I think I own it. I used to own it. I don't know, but
nice.
Yeah, it's a scary movie.
It is.
And Naomi Watts is probably my favorite actress. One of my favorites, definitely.
Really?
So,
interesting. Yeah, she's fantastic. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
No, but yeah, she is a great actress, and she was good in that movie,
right.
from what I remember.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a long time either. But I do remember seeing it in high school, and I remember, it was a big hit, so everyone saw it, and I imagine that it had the same effect as like Scream would have had. Like everyone, like the week after that, everyone was calling everyone and saying like, "You will die in 7 days,"
yeah.
and so it's kind of a goofy thing that kids do.
Classic.
Yeah, but I liked it. I thought that the kind of like you said, the kind of the atmosphere of the movie was pretty well handled, I think.
Yeah,
from my
definitely.
memory. Yeah. But I'll have to watch it again because I do own it, but I don't know. Have you ever seen The Ring 2, Tiny?
I think I did, but it's been so long. I don't even remember it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've never seen its Japanese counterpart, Ringu, or its sequels, but I don't know. I have such a weird thing about Japanese horror because there's like no holds barred in that genre of in Japanese horror. Like they go all out with the creepy, weird, gory stuff. So
yeah, they do.
Yeah, so I'm always really hesitant to check out any of their stuff. But yeah. So, what do you think, Tiny? Should we wrap it up, or do you have any parting thoughts, or anything?
No, just looking forward to the rest of Shocktober.
Nice, me too. What do you have lined up? Anything?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I might go with Poltergeist tonight or tomorrow.
Nice.
Watch that one, and I kind of want to get back to kick off the Romero zombie movies because I have those.
Nice.
I haven't seen most of them. I've only seen 2 of them, I think. So.
Night and Dawn.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to your thoughts on. I'm looking forward to your thoughts on Day of the Dead.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we'll see.
Cool. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm feeling kind of crunch time with it because I have like plans for like I want to watch all the Scream movies. I want to post something about subverting the genre, like Scream and Behind the Mask and Cabin in the Woods, those kind of movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also want to watch a bunch of found footage movies and post a big write-up about that. So,
cool.
Yeah. One final thing. Where are you at in the Halloween franchise?
I just watched... Last week I watched the 4th one. I think the 5th one is on Netflix Instant. I think I'm going to watch that one next.
I think so, too.
Yeah,
Nice.
I don't know when I'm going to watch it, but I will.
Yeah,
eventually.
I'm curious what you think when you get to 6.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that about covers this edition of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. I apologize if it's a little jarring for us to go from 3 to 2 hosts in one episode, but you know,
we have to make do.
We do. When one of us gets married off, we have to do some corrections, I guess.
Yeah.
So, as always, you can follow me, Matt, at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter. Tiny, what's your Twitter handle?
Obsessive Tiny.
Obsessive Tiny, yes. And Mike, you can find him at I am Mike White. And then, of course, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Facebook at The Obsessive Viewer, Google Plus, all that crap. Yeah. And am I forgetting anything?
Check out the blog.
Yes, check out the blog, the thing that I spend a ton of time on.
Yeah.
ObsessiveViewer.com. We have a Shocktober tab with all the horror movie related content that we can muster this month. And also a bevy of other reviews and musings and stuff like that. And if you want to supersede the blog and go straight to the podcast and go through the back catalog of Obsessive Viewer episodes, you can go to ovpodcast.com. There you'll find everything separated by season, and it's really cool. So go check it out and tell all your friends. Please. All right, thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Were you laughing, Mike?
Yeah.
Just the way he said record.
Record! Hey guys, record!
Oh my god, that was scary.
That was creepy.
Thanks.